The Minnesota Vikings have a decision to make on Kirk Cousins, whether he's going to stay in Minnesota or if he's not going to stay in Minnesota. And currently, the betting favorites to land Kirk Cousins this offseason is the Atlanta Falcons. That would mean we are without a quarterback, which for some of you guys, I think you're pretty happy about that decision because it's time to move forward, time to find a franchise quarterback. And for others, you're like, what are we doing? We have to find a way to, bring this guy back, make Justin Jefferson happy so he doesn't end up wanting to leave and yada, yada, yada. But if this is the reality, which it very well could be, we have to start looking towards the future. And the reason, or one of the bigger reasons that Atlanta is the betting favorite to land Kirk Cousins is per Mike Florio of Pro Football Talk, I believe. He basically put out a post that said Kirk Cousins has been looking for homes around the Atlanta area for his family to potentially move to. Now, you can take that whichever way you want, but I take it as this. Right now, Kirk Cousins is feeling the landscape because on March 13th, he's going to become an unrestricted free agent if him and the Vikings don't get a deal done, which means he's going to have a plan in place to move his family. Okay, he's not going to want to move to Atlanta and then wait for his family to come down there, even though that wouldn't happen. Because if he does go to Atlanta, you have to remember that his wife is actually from Atlanta, Georgia, or at least somewhere in Georgia. She was a Georgia Bulldog in college. So they have family ties there, which makes it even more sense that Kirk Cousins would end up going to Atlanta. So if he does end up going to Atlanta, what quarterback would we want to bring in? Well, obviously, you'd like to draft a rookie, which we've talked about, but you're also going to want to bring in a veteran, somebody that can show the rookie the rope, show him how it's done, show him how to be a professional. And we've talked a couple of times about, Justin Fields, maybe Trey Lance, Sam Darnold, and hit on those notes. We also talked about Russell Wilson. And at that time, I said absolutely not. I would not want Russell Wilson in a Minnesota Vikings uniform just because he hasn't performed like he had when he was with the Seattle Seahawks. However, my opinion on that has changed. Could Russell Wilson be the perfect fit for the Minnesota Vikings? Well, let's dive right into it. Make sure to subscribe to the channel. Now, the Broncos officially cut Russell Wilson Monday, and speculation of his next landing spot kicked into overdrive as the start of free agency on March 13th nears. Naturally, it's only doing due diligence, and wonder if Wilson makes sense in Minnesota if Kirk Cousins leaves for Atlanta or somewhere else. Financially, it makes a ton of sense. The Vikings have only around $37 million in cap space to open the new league year, and they have big money extensions to negotiate and a bunch of holes to patch on defense. So we're already talking about with the amount of or the big money extensions. Justin Jefferson's going to get massive payday, be the highest paid receiver in the NFL, be the highest paid non-quarterback in the National Football League. If Kirk Cousins leaves, we have the opportunity now to re-sign or extend Danielle Hunter. So there's a couple extensions we're already looking at if Kirk Cousins leaves. With Russell Wilson coming in, it would make a lot of sense financially. And that's the only reason I say that is because, the Broncos are still on the hook for $39 million to be paid to Russell Wilson during this upcoming season, the 2024 season. They also are on hook for like $45 or $49 million in 2025 as well. So any team that signs Russell Wilson really wouldn't have to pay him that much. Offset language in Wilson's contract means that whatever he is paid from his new team is money that the Broncos do not have to pay. Okay, so say we give him a contract, $2 million. That's $2 million subtracted from the $39 million. If that's how I'm taking it, if that's correct. If not, somebody out there, if you're a Broncos fan, Vikings fan, or just you're a number guru, let me know if that's how that works. Just because I feel like that is how it's worded. Now, as punishment for how he was unceremoniously dumped in Denver, Wilson could sign for the league minimum, which is about $1.21 million, and still rake in just over $37 million from the Broncos. So I was correct on that, right? So if he gets paid that $1.2 million from the Minnesota Vikings this season, the Broncos would only have to pay him $37 million as opposed to $39 million. So whatever team he goes to, the Broncos won't have to pay whatever type of contract that they give him, right? But if you're Russell Wilson and you're looking at what the Broncos did to you, how they did him dirty, you're like, no, we're going to make them pay for it, and we're going to go to a different team and really build this. We're going to make this team, a powerhouse. A team that when other teams come to town, they're like, boy, we have to play these guys. This is going to be a tough game. That is what we want to do, and that's what Russ Wilson should ultimately do as well. Now, for a team like the Vikings, it's an interesting idea. Sign a former Super Bowl champion quarterback for peanuts, extend Justin Jefferson to a mega deal, bring back Danielle Hunter, and load up on defense. The Vikings, could even draft their future quarterback while signing Russell Wilson to a short-term deal. Now, that is a great point. If Russell Wilson can go anywhere else, and he's cheap, league minimum, $1.21 million, if the Minnesota Vikings really want to, they could sign him to a one-year contract, $5 million, probably one-year contract, $2 million, and save a bunch of cap to get that extension done for Jefferson, get the extension done for Danielle Hunter, boost that defense via the draft or free agency with all the cap space that we'd still have. But if we sign Russell to that contract, I want to say it would be, instead of $37 million, we'd have $35 million in cap space. That's a pretty good amount when you're getting a franchise or a former franchise quarterback, potentially could still be a franchise quarterback. Still has a lot left in the tank. Former Super Bowl champion, stud, maybe in some eyes Hall of Famer, in other eyes not so much, even though he's a really good quarterback. It would make a lot of sense. Boost the defense, build the team around Russell Wilson, still draft the quarterback of the future to learn under Russell Wilson, and then when Russell's time here in Minnesota is over, you put that rookie in, bada bing, bada boom, we have a powerhouse. We have a unit. We have a team that's capable of winning championships. Okay? Now, Purple Insider's Matthew Kohler told Bring Me the Sports in December when the Vikings were betting favorites to land Wilson. He basically said, I would be surprised if they felt like he was the best fit considering where his career has gone since Seattle. Okay, he put together a decent season with the Broncos, but no longer appears to be a quarterback that can carry a team like he did with the Seahawks. Now, that can entirely be due to the fact of the system, right? Everyone's going to say, oh, what about the system, the system, the system? And some people would be like, well, that's an excuse. Like, you just have to be better. And I understand that, right? But in Seattle, he didn't have to throw the rock too much. He could utilize his feet. He was a little bit younger. He could hand the rock off to Marshawn Lynch and really go win ball games. Be a freak of nature. Okay, I hated playing Russell Wilson when he was on the Seattle Seahawks. I bet a lot of you guys did too because we knew it was going to be a battle. Then he goes to Denver. Well, what has Denver really been the past couple seasons? Not great. And if you think that one man can completely change an organization around, other than Tom Brady or Peyton Manning, you're completely wrong. Or Patrick Mahomes. It's going to be tough to do that. You need a supporting cast around you. First year, Nathaniel Hackett didn't know what he was doing. Really did not know what he was doing, and they were garbage. They were the worst team to watch. Literally on prime time, any game they were playing, why would you turn on a Broncos game? Then this past year with Sean Payton, you could see right from the get-go, that wasn't Sean Payton's guy, and he didn't want him. He wanted nothing to do with him. Then he gets benched for the last 2 games of the season because he wouldn't take out his injury guarantee on his contract, and the Broncos were doing him dirty. Even though he was doing okay. He was doing all right. He wasn't that bad. But I think there's still some left in the tank for Russell Wilson, and when he brings him, if you bring him to Minnesota, he's going to have a great supporting cast around him, a decent offensive line that's going to be able to protect him, okay? Weapons up the yin-yang, right? Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, TJ Hawkinson, whoever we put in that backfield, whether it's a draft pick or whether it's a free agent like a Saquon, a Derrick Henry, Ezekiel Elliott, Tony Pollard, whatever it might be, our offense would be perfect. It'd be great pending injuries, right? Then defensively, bring back Danielle Hunter because we saved all that money with not signing Kirk Cousins. Now, we don't have to really focus on the edge. We can go get some secondary pieces, some corners. Harrison Smith might restructure his contract, make that a little bit better. Maybe go get a linebacker in free agency to build it. Russell Wilson to the Minnesota Vikings makes a lot of sense now. Before it didn't. I didn't want anything to do with it. But now, if he's this cheap, if he's willing to take the league minimum, boy, imagine what this team can look like down the road. Imagine. Just think. And I know everyone's like, well, we've been saying this for years. We want something now. It's gonna take a little bit more than that. And I get it. I'm sick of waiting too. I want a Super Bowl. I want a Lombardi. But this might give us the best opportunity to build towards that, to make sure that we can host a Lombardi, that we can win a championship. Russell Wilson to the Minnesota Vikings, honestly, would probably be the perfect fit. You guys let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Drop a like and subscribe to the channel. It would be much, much appreciated. Have a great rest of your night, folks, and Skol Vikes.